Hello, my name is Mitch and I draw Blood Force, and we're back with more early 90s classic comic action. I suppose they're classics. They don't feel like... I mean, you think about when these came out, the stuff that was classic was 30 years prior to... So yeah, that kind of adds up. Alright, these are classics now. Makes sense. Everything I listen to on the radio, it's classic rock, so... Okay. Just another reminder, we're all old. So, we're back with Spider-Man number 20 from March of 1992. And this is Revenge of the Sinister Six, Part 3. And just before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, if you think you might want to support me as an artist, in the description there's a couple of links. One's to my Patreon, and the other is to my Instagram. That's where you can get commissions if you like. Also, hit the likes, hit the subscribes, hit the notifications, all the things you're supposed to hit those things. So we are back with more Spider-Man. And so what happened in the last issue? Not a ton, because Eric Larson's house burned down, unfortunately. So we got half an issue. We got a fight. And that was about it. And at the end of it, it was promised that the Diablo backup that had to be subbed in at the last second was a two-parter. So this one, I expect, will also be a short issue. That's all right. That's how it goes. So let's start with the cover. Pretty good cover. Better than the last one, in my opinion. Actually, that makes sense now, thinking about it. For a guy who had to maybe come up with a cover last minute, yeah, you're not really going to compose anything, I suppose. You're not going to put that much time into it. But this one is better, and we've got more goofy guest stars. There's a whole lot of weird-ass guest stars in this series. I'm not sure why. So in addition to Spider-Man and the Hulk, we've also got Nova of the New Warriors, and Deathlock, and Solo. I don't know. I guess there's got to be like a... So I guess to combat the Sinister Six, you have to come up with the righteous equivalent. So, and that is all these rejects, and Spider-Man and the Hulk. Sure. Oh, and Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was in issue 1. Remember that? So yeah, we start off with Nova. Big old splash page Nova. Okay. I almost don't know if we should be... It almost feels like we shouldn't really be going through this, because, like, you know, everything's like, this isn't good. This isn't a good splash page. But his house burned down. So, okay, what are you going to do? So, Nova has, it turns out, a police band radio in his helmet, which is handy. I'll give him that. And so he heard about the shit going down at the warehouse, went over there and found Spidey floating in the river. Fished him out, and that's where we stand now. And Spidey goes, hey, you think you might be able to help me? And he goes, wait a sec, I've got a distress call coming in from the New Warriors. And he fucks off, and it's just like, man, you made that shit up, didn't you? You just didn't want to help Spidey. Now that he's seen Spidey's nose, that just made everything weird. So Nova takes off, that's the end of that team up. And we're going to cut to Deathlock, who gets one page to show why he's in this issue. And it turns out the government is working on a cyborg program, and it's a cyborg super soldier program. And that is what the dude in issue 1 was, apparently. So, that guy here, he's a cyborg super soldier. Looks a little bit like Super Patriot. Not quite, but, you know. Different enough that Marvel maybe won't sue in a couple of months. So, Deathlock gets his computer to search through cyberspace and see if he can find some evidence that will lead us to where they're built. And that's it. That's it for Deathlock in this issue. I mean, to be fair, they don't get a lot of space on the cover, but their heads are kind of big. The big deal, though, is for Spider-Man and Solo, which does make sense. And Solo's justification for being in this issue is a little tenuous. So the Sinister Six, if their purpose was simply a vendetta against Spider-Man, I couldn't care less. But they've attempted to extort money and threaten people's lives in the past. And now they've killed. Did they kill? Who did they kill? Must have killed somebody. Okay. So that makes them terrorists, and while Solo lives, terror dies. And that's justification right there. It's on the page. You can't argue with it. And Hulk wakes up, and he's a little snarky that they caught him unconscious, I suppose. which is fine. So we're pretty much caught up, I suppose. Spidey makes his way home, and he's in rough shape, but not too bad, at least not at this point. And he's going to come up with some web cannons, because he's got to come up with something. MJ asks him, can't anybody help you? And he's like, I don't know enough people. The FF and the Avengers aren't available, and I don't know the other guys. And again, one of those patterns, because he didn't draw those. That's a strip. That's a Zipatone strip. And MJ gives him shit because he ate a couple of burgers on his way home. And he's like, bitch, I got superpowers. I feel like this must be an argument Erik Larsen had with his wife. And he wanted to get it on the page because there's no justification for MJ to be giving Peter shit for eating garbage food. He's been a superhero for like 30 years at this point. Let's say it's like 10 or 15, whatever, in universe. And he understands how his body is affected by what foods. You know, yeah, he treats his body like shit sometimes, but it hasn't hurt him overall. And he's probably going to be able to bounce back. You know, like, you can't judge a guy who can work out with super strength. Who knows how his fucking cardio is? Probably pretty good. And then out of nowhere, I guess because she didn't have a decent argument, she tries to engage in sexy times. Which is true to form for Erik Larsen. He does like to put in sexy times regardless of whether or not it's appropriate. But she notices the time just before, and turns out I gotta leave for my Frankenheimer movie. Schwarzenheimer, whatever the fuck it is. So, Spider-Man speeding away with his web cannons. Which look weird, but okay. And turns out Solo is on top of the Daily Bugle. And figured that he would find Spider-Man if he did that. So apparently that's just how you find Spider-Man. So he should probably avoid that area for a while, because everybody knows now. So he heard about the Sinister Six and Spidey's fight. And he's like, I'm going to kill them all. And he's like, no, you're not. Not on my watch. And he runs away after Solo puts a tracer on him. So that was the purpose of that page. And then the purpose of this page is so we can get a shot of Solo standing there. I've never heard of Solo before or after this, I don't think. Just in this particular storyline. So, Spidey tracks the tracer he put on Hobgoblin in Chapter 2. And sneaks in, but is immediately seen. There's no real transition where they notice him, right? They just know that he's there. It's like, okay. And his plan is just to blanket the place in webbing before they notice him. So obviously that's out the window. Tries to get what he can in, but too late. Ox arms pull apart the webbing before it can solidify, and they puncture the storage containers, which does a big old far swoosh. And I know you're having difficulty with these with these sound effects. Chris Eliopoulos is back on the letters on this one. Or he's on the printing, apparently. It still looks like Eliopoulos to me. So this is whip the whip. Probably pretty easy. Far swoosh. And whoosh. I'm not even sure. I think that's the hit? I'm not for sure. Now we got those classic Marvel tees. Alright, so, whilst Spider-Man is stuck in his webbing, with no spider sense, remember, Solo busts in, and immediately murders Mysterio. Uh-oh. Spider-Man busts out pretty easily, so you have to wonder about his plan to just blanket the place in webbing. Gets a good hit in on Octopus, while Solo guns down every member of the Sinister Six. It's like, I don't remember that in continuity. Until the only thing left is Doc Ock. But, turns out, surprise, surprise, that was all an illusion by Mysterio. I guess we probably should have seen that coming. Where Solo just kind of saw what he wanted for a while. They beat the living shit out of Spider-Man. and made it look like Dr. Octopus was the one lying there when it's in fact Spider-Man. And that's it for this issue. Not a bad job of getting a little bit of story in 12 pages. And they confirm here the storyline was originally supposed to be 5 parts. And they've now extended it to 6 because of this whole fracas. So, back to the Diabolique thing. So, Diablo is back. There we go. He begins monologuing immediately. So he was defeated by Alpha Flight. That's how low on the totem pole Diablo is, in case you were wondering. So it took precious little time for an alchemist of my caliber to distill the necessary ingredients for his escape from my own body. So he made fucking pea serums to get himself out of Central America. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, I guess, but to just volunteer that information, like, you know, that part you maybe want to keep to yourself. So when he gets back up here, he reads about the Diabolique cache, and only he recognized its true significance, made a transfiguration oil to disguise himself as the curator. We're supposed to go, oh my god, it's the curator, and it just looks kind of like the guy with no mustache, really, but, you know, that's how it goes. So snuck in, and now he's ready to take his cask, which is apparently all of his old alchemy serums and oils and shit from back in, like, the 9th century. And Spider-Man doesn't believe in alchemy, and he's going to take a swing, and his hand goes foomp right through him there. And we get a lot of these kind of parlor tricky kind of things. Throws up a thing to blind Spider-Man for a second, while he monologues some more about how he was buried alive with all of his alchemy junk, which was dumb, because then he just, you know, used his alchemy junk to put himself in suspended animation until he was awakened in the 20th century by the Fantastic Four, in Fantastic Four number 33, apparently. So I guess we're supposed to check that out in 1992. I think even at that point, it was probably worth a little bit. Maybe we're supposed to check out a Marvel Masterwork, because he didn't get it online, I'll tell you that. So Spidey's able to clear his eyes, only to find that this fog that he's set up here makes it appear as if he's duplicated himself a bunch of times. So while Spidey's occupied with those things, he's able to check out the cache here, including this goblet. Spidey clears all the duplicates, but too late, because the age of the Electrol is upon us. And he admits that the Electrol didn't have much of a point back in the 9th century. which I appreciate. But yeah, no, it's good now. It's a good thing that he invented back then and just went, I'll just keep that in my back pocket. So Spidey gets to fight the Electrol, while Diablo, I'm not even sure what he's doing now. He's still messing with that cache. Oh, okay. So he's got, yeah, right. He's got the goo in his fingertips that melts the door so he can escape. And Spidey uses the wire from power cable from the window he was going to smash last time, and uses that to short circuit the Electrol, I suppose, and all of them as well. That's how that works. I'll take their word for it. I mean, I never electrocuted an Electrol myself. So Diablo goes negotiation mode and goes, I know how to bring people back from the dead, eh? Or I can figure it out anyway. So he's using the Darth Sidious argument on Spider-Man here, which is apparently working. So we know what George Lucas was reading in 1992, and sees visions of Gwen, that's Gwen, and Uncle Ben. He's seeing Uncle Ben Gwen appear before him, and that's bad. He realizes bad, and leaps for Diablo, but Diablo hits him with hyperground pepper and mace. So he's running out of, like, the more elaborate serums. Just like, this is the stuff I had in my garage. And is still not able to escape. He fucking... Spider-Man captures him again. He spits a tooth, which is full of a very specific concoction designed to transmute glass into razor-edged iron shrapnel. It's a wonder he didn't have a use for that before now. Anyway, I have no idea what this is. I remember seeing this and being like, that looks slick, and never looking into it whatsoever. I wonder if that turned into anything. It looks like more like a cartoon than a comic. With good reason, apparently. So it was a limited series. 6 issues, written by Steve Purcell and drawn by Frank Kuroko and inspired by cartoons. So Little Roger Rabbit-y, really. Weird. Okay. So, the razor-sharp iron shrapnel has now stopped falling, and Spider-Man was able to spin a web umbrella just in time to protect himself. Still shredded him up pretty badly. In the meantime, Diablo was able to artificially age his webbing until it was brittle and escaped with the Diabolique cask, or cash. The cask full of cash, and the cops and the real curator show up at that point, and Spider-Man's looking a little shredded. This looks fine. There's some decent looking stuff in here, really. Again, I don't like I said, I don't like his art style, but you know, he's not terrible. You know, there are guys that are terrible occasionally. And then it turns out that Diablo actually turned himself invisible. He didn't actually escape. He just waited until everybody left, and now he can open the cask, but the protective spell that he put on it to turn it into dust right at an inopportune time, unfortunately kicked in. So now Spider-Man has a pretty rough enemy in Diablo, because he's gonna throw more condiments and like turn his hair into rubber or something. He's gonna do just like the weirdest shit, such as Diablo. And there was a Beetlejuice Game Boy game. I don't recall that, but I'll take the word for it. Looks a little Tim Burton-y. All right, so that's it for Spider-Man number 20, halfway through. So we'll end that one here. Next time, of course, Chapter 4. And we'll get a full issue of Eric Larson. That'll be good stuff. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications, open up the description, follow the links to my Patreon and my Instagram, and subscribe and commission stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.